The first time I saw her, it was as if the ocean itself had reached out and touched me. The night was thick with the scent of salt and seaweed, and the moon hung low over the horizon, casting its silvery light across the dark waves. I had been out on my boat for hours, doing what I always did, mending nets, checking traps, keeping my thoughts on the rhythms of the sea. It was a quiet life, simple and steady, one I could count on to keep me from thinking too much. But tonight that all changed. She appeared at the edge of the water, her figure bathed in moonlight like some kind of ethereal being. For a moment I thought it was just the waves playing tricks on my tired eyes, but no, it was her. A woman, no, not just any woman. Her skin shimmered, almost translucent, glowing with a soft, otherworldly light. Her hair, long and flowing, sparkled like the surface of the sea, shifting with each gentle breeze. I had heard the stories, of course. The fishermen in the nearby towns talked about strange things happening out on the water at night, things they couldn't explain. Mermaids, sea spirits, or just drunken delusions, they said. But no one ever mentioned anything like this. She wasn't human, at least not in the way I understood. But there she stood, at the edge of the cliffs, staring out over the water, as though waiting for something, or someone. I froze. Maybe I was imagining things, or maybe the sea had finally driven me mad, but there was something about her that pulled me in. Hello. My voice was hoarse, as if speaking to her might break the strange, fragile reality that had suddenly enveloped me. She didn't move for a long moment, as though processing my presence. Then slowly her head turned to face me. Her eyes, glowing pale blue, like two deep pools of light, met mine, and for a brief instant, everything in the world seemed to fade away. The ocean, the wind, the night itself, all vanished in those eyes. I need your help, Mr. Chips. Her voice was soft but steady, like the sound of water lapping against the shore. I swallowed hard. How do you know my name? Her lips curved slightly in a knowing smile. I've been watching you. You're the only one who's ever noticed. I felt the air shift, the weight of her words settling in my chest. She wasn't just some figment of my imagination. She was real, and somehow, she knew me, knew everything about me. I had always prided myself on being an ordinary man, someone who stayed out of trouble and never caused a fuss. But the way she looked at me, it was like I was being asked to step into something far beyond my comprehension. What do you need? The question came out before I even thought about it. Her gaze softened, and she stepped closer, her form glowing brighter as she did. I need you to help me, Mr. Chips. There is something I must do before the moon rises too high. I cannot do it alone. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I had never been one to turn away from a challenge. What's going to happen? I asked, voice trembling slightly now, unsure of where this conversation was going. She looked down at the sea, her expression wistful. I come from far away. My kind, she paused as though trying to find the right words. We need to connect with another species, to survive. It's the way of things for us. I couldn't keep up. Her words didn't make sense, and my mind was racing. Who is she? What was she talking about? I was just a fisherman, for God's sake. What did I have to do with any of this? Her eyes met mine again, and I felt a strange pull in my chest. You are the one who can help me. You are the one I need. Her words were like a promise, and in that moment, I felt a connection, something deep and ancient, stir within me. It was as if the sea itself had whispered its secrets to me, and I was standing on the edge of understanding something far greater than I could ever imagine. Without thinking, I nodded. I'll help you. Her smile deepened, and the air seemed to grow even heavier. Thank you, Mr. Chips. I didn't know why I agreed. Maybe it was because I was lonely. Maybe it was because, for the first time in years, I felt something calling me. But that night, as the moon climbed higher in the sky, I found myself standing beside this mysterious being, this alien girl who had come from the ocean, who had come to me for help. What happened next, I couldn't have predicted. But the sea, the vast, endless sea, was about to change everything I thought I knew about the world. And I was going to be a part of it whether I was ready or not. I couldn't stop staring at her. Jasmeen stood before me, her presence surreal, as if she didn't belong to this world. The moonlight shimmered off her skin, and the soft glow seemed to come from within her, like she was made of light itself. Every time she moved, it was as if the air around her bent and swirled. She wasn't just a woman, she was something other, something that defied the very nature of what I knew to be possible. But even with all the questions swirling in my mind, I couldn't turn away. I had made a choice, whether out of curiosity, loneliness, or something else. She spoke again, her voice calm and steady. I come from far away. My kind, we are not like humans. We are born of the stars. Her words barely made sense, but I nodded. Stars? What do you mean by that? Jasmeen turned her gaze to the sea, her eyes glinting with a distant sadness. We are the Teshara, an ancient species from a distant world. Our people traveled across the stars, seeking new planets, new ways of surviving. We settled on Earth because we found that it has a unique connection to our biology. I blinked, my mind racing. You're telling me you're an alien? She nodded, her gaze unwavering. Yes, I am. But more than that, I am one of the last of my kind. I didn't know what to say. My brain was still trying to wrap around the fact that I was standing on a cliff, talking to an alien, a being from beyond the stars. Everything I knew about the world felt like it was crumbling beneath me. Jasmeen continued, her voice softening. My kind has long been in hiding, scattered across the planet, blending in, hiding in the oceans, under the earth, in the shadows of human existence. But we cannot hide forever. We need to breed, to survive, to ensure our future. And for that, we need your help. I took a step back, my heart pounding. Breeding? With me. Her gaze flickered with a strange, unreadable expression. Yes. The cycle of life for my people is linked to the moon, and when the moon is full, we are drawn to the shore. We need to find a mate, a human, someone who can bond with us. When that bond is made, the energy between us is transferred, and we can regenerate, survive, and carry on our species. I stood there, frozen. This was madness. Mating with an alien? This couldn't be real. But the more I looked at her, the more her presence felt right, somehow. Like we were meant to meet, meant to connect. Why me? I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. Why do you need me specifically? Her lips parted slightly, and she stepped closer, her eyes never leaving mine. Because you were the one who noticed me. You saw me when no one else did. And there's something in your spirit, in your soul, that resonates with mine. I swallowed hard. There was a strange pull to her words, something deep that I couldn't explain. My heart was still racing, but I couldn't deny that something inside me felt connected to her, like we were being drawn together by some invisible force. The moon, she continued, her voice soft, almost hypnotic. It pulls me out of the sea. It draws me to the shore. And tonight, the moon is full. The bond must be made now, or I will not survive. I couldn't speak. The words didn't come. All I could do was look at her, at this beautiful alien creature who seemed to be both a mystery and a destiny. She stepped closer still, her cool skin brushing against mine. It felt like a shock of electricity ran through me at the contact. Something powerful, ancient, stirred inside me. My mind was swimming, thoughts scattered, but there was no denying what I was feeling. She reached out, gently touching my hand. We are more alike than you realize, Mr. Chips. Your kind has always been drawn to the unknown, to the strange, to the mysterious. The bond between us is not just for survival, it is for the future. Together, we can restore what was lost. She wasn't just talking about her species. She was talking about the universe itself, about a cycle that connected her people to the very fabric of existence. I wanted to turn away. I wanted to walk back to my boat and pretend none of this ever happened. But I couldn't. I was already in this. I had already stepped into something far beyond my control. And despite the fear gnawing at my insides, I felt a strange peace, as though I was doing what I was always meant to do. Okay, I finally whispered, though I didn't know what I was agreeing to. I'll help you. Jasmeen smiled, her eyes softening with a deep, almost tender expression. Thank you. You have no idea what this means. She turned back toward the sea, her form now glowing even brighter. The moon above seemed to respond to her, its light intensifying as she stepped toward the edge of the water. The night is young, Mr. Chips. The bond can only happen once the moon reaches its zenith. Will you follow me? I nodded, unable to speak. I didn't know what would happen next, but I had made my choice. There was no going back. The moment I followed Jasmeen to the water's edge, the world seemed to shift. The moon, high above, cast a silver glow over everything, turning the sea into a mirror, rippling with a soft, almost hypnotic light. Her figure shimmered in the moonlight, more ethereal than ever, like she belonged to this world and yet didn't at the same time. I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. The fear I had pushed aside earlier crept back in, gnawing at the edges of my mind. What if this was a mistake? What if I was about to make the biggest error of my life? But when Jasmeen turned to me, her glowing eyes filled with trust, I couldn't pull away. I had already made my choice, and there was no turning back. She smiled softly, the glow of her skin intensifying as she spoke. This is the way for my kind. The moon guides us, but only when we are ready. Only when the bond is completed. I swallowed hard. What exactly do I need to do? She moved closer, her body glowing with energy, and gently placed a hand on my chest. Her touch felt like electricity, like she was reaching deep inside me and awakening something. I could feel the beat of my heart racing in time with hers, as if we were becoming attuned to each other. You must trust me, she whispered. This bond will connect us, not just physically but emotionally, mentally. The energy between us will flow, and you will understand me as I understand you. I nodded, not sure of the words, but knowing she needed me to do this. There was something in the way she spoke, something that made me believe it wasn't just a physical connection. It was something deeper. Her eyes locked onto mine, her expression intense and focused. Close your eyes, Mr. Chips. I did as she asked, my pulse thumping in my ears. A part of me still wasn't sure if I was dreaming or if this was some wild fantasy. But when I closed my eyes, I felt her presence. It was more than just her touch. It was as though she was everywhere, inside my mind, within my very soul. I could feel the ebb and flow of her energy, like a gentle current of power that intertwined with my own. Her voice echoed in my mind, not spoken but felt. Relax, Mr. Chips. Let the bond begin. I didn't know what to expect. But what followed was unlike anything I had ever imagined. It started as a tingling sensation, a warm pressure that spread through my body, from my chest to my fingertips and down to my toes. I could feel the connection, the way she pulled energy from me, and in return, how her energy flooded my senses, filling the gaps I didn't even know were there. Her presence was overwhelming, and yet it felt so natural, like we were always meant to be connected. A flash of images appeared in my mind, visions of stars, of places I had never seen. Worlds beyond Earth, beautiful and strange, full of alien landscapes and advanced cities. But at the center of it all, I saw Jasmeen, her people, their struggle to survive, their need for the connection that could restore their vitality. She wasn't just asking for help. She was asking for survival. The feeling intensified, and I realized I was no longer just a human. There was something more to me now, something I couldn't fully comprehend. I was sharing her energy, becoming part of something greater. Let go, Jasmeen's voice echoed in my mind. Trust the bond. Feel it. I didn't resist. I let go, letting the flow of energy move between us, swirling like a cosmic dance. It wasn't just physical. It was emotional, spiritual, a connection that went beyond what words could express. In that moment, I felt her, all of her. The loneliness she had carried for so long. The centuries of isolation. The longing for something more. And as the bond deepened, I understood. I understood her pain, her desperation. I understood the weight of the responsibility she carried for her species. But something else surged through me too. Her strength. Her willpower. The power of an ancient species, linked to the stars, bound by the cycles of the universe. The more we bonded, the more I could feel her power merging with mine. My senses were sharper, my mind clearer. I could feel the pulse of the ocean, the pull of the moon. The world around me was alive in ways I had never known before. And just as suddenly as it began, the bond flared to its peak. There was a moment of blinding light, and then all was still. I opened my eyes, blinking against the soft glow that still surrounded us. Jasmeen stood before me, her expression soft and serene, her energy now fully aligned with mine. She looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw not just the alien being I had first met, but someone who had become a part of me. "I never thought I could feel this way," she whispered, her voice full of awe. "You are a part of me now, Mr. Chips." I could feel the change within me. The world seemed brighter, sharper. I could hear the whisper of the ocean, the beating of my heart, the way our two beings were now bound in a way that transcended time and space. But there was a deeper truth in her words. The bond was not just for her survival. It was for both of us, for our growth as individuals. I had entered into something ancient, something powerful, that would change everything. But as the moon began to descend, I realized one truth: our time together was short. With the dawn approaching, the connection would begin to fade. "What happens now?" I asked, my voice heavy with the weight of everything I had just experienced. Jasmeen smiled, her eyes glowing softly. "Now we wait for the cycle to begin again. And when it does, we will be ready." I wasn't sure what that meant. But in that moment I knew our bond was just the beginning. The universe had opened its door, and we were stepping through it together. The first rays of dawn crept over the horizon, breaking through the night and flooding the sea with soft, golden light. Jasmeen's glow, once bright and steady, began to fade with the coming light, her form flickering like a dim star. I could feel her energy weakening, the bond between us beginning to wane. The connection was still there, but it was now fragile, like the last ember of a fire slowly dying in the cold morning air. I stepped closer to her, feeling an overwhelming need to hold onto what we had just shared. "You have to leave now, don't you?" I asked, my voice heavy with a sadness I didn't understand. Jasmeen's eyes were still glowing faintly, but the intensity had waned. She nodded, her lips curling into a soft, bittersweet smile. "Yes. When the sun rises, I must return to the sea. But the bond, it will not disappear. You will always carry a part of me with you." I reached out instinctively, my hand brushing hers. The connection we had shared felt woven into the very fabric of my being. It was more than just physical. It was an understanding, a link that could never truly be severed. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of the waves crashing gently on the shore, the wind pulling at the sea, and the distant cry of birds greeting the dawn. It felt like time itself had slowed, and we were both caught in that brief, fragile moment. But reality came crashing back as Jasmeen stepped back, the change in her energy palpable. Her shimmering form was starting to lose its glow as the sun climbed higher. "I must go now, Mr. Chips." She turned, her bare feet sinking into the wet sand, and I couldn't help but watch her, feeling an overwhelming sense of loss. This was all happening too fast, and yet, it felt like we were bound by something that transcended time. "You'll be back, right?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Jasmeen paused, her back still to me, the faintest hint of a smile on her lips. "Yes, when the moon rises again, I will return. The bond will always pull us together." With that, she stepped into the water, and for a moment, I thought she was just going to vanish into the waves like she had done so many times before. But this time was different. As she waded deeper into the sea, I felt something shift. The connection between us was still strong, almost tangible, like a thread of energy stretching from my chest to hers. Just before Jasmeen disappeared into the water, she turned one last time, her eyes meeting mine. There was something strange in her gaze, something urgent, something I couldn't place. "Remember," she called out, her voice carrying over the waves. "The Xyrians are not the only ones who will be looking for us." Before I could ask her what she meant, she vanished into the sea, leaving me standing alone on the shore, the energy of the bond still lingering in the air like a low hum. I stared out at the water, the rising sun painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. The world felt different, more alive, somehow. I could still feel her, as though she was just beyond the horizon, waiting for the next moonrise to return. But then, just as I was about to turn and leave, I saw something. A shadow moving swiftly beneath the waves, something large and unfamiliar. It was too fast, too close to the shore. My heart began to race as I scanned the water, trying to see what it was. And then I heard it, a distant hum, faint but unmistakable, echoing across the sea. The sound grew louder, and I could feel the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I knew that sound. It was the same hum that had filled the air the night I first met Jasmeen. I turned back to the water and my stomach dropped. Something massive, something alien, was coming toward me. The sea seemed to ripple as something broke the surface, something huge and dark, its silhouette unmistakable against the sky. In that moment I realized something. Jasmeen hadn't just left. She had warned me, this wasn't over. The Xyrians were coming. And now, the bond between me and Jasmeen wasn't just a connection, it was a beacon, pulling them toward me, toward us. The hum grew louder, more intense, and I knew what I had to do. I wasn't just a fisherman anymore. I was part of something bigger, something ancient. And whatever came next, I would face it with everything I had. I took one last look at the horizon, my heart pounding in my chest. The battle for humanity's survival was just beginning. And this time, I wasn't going to run. Are you ready for the next chapter? Mr. Chips and Jasmeen have bonded, but the Xyrians are coming, and they're bringing an army. What will happen when the alien empire realizes that humans have evolved in ways they never imagined? Collision, stay tuned for the epic sequel. The battle between humans and the Xyrians is about to begin. Would you like more alien-human adventure stories? Let me know.